I'm going to tell you a story today with some Modern Warfare 2 multiplayer gameplay in the background here with the Bison. For some reason, it's called the mini-back in this game, but you know, we all know, come on, it's a PP19 Bison, isn't it? Look at it, it's got to be. What even is a mini-back? What does that even mean? I'm not sure, but I'm playing a game mode that they've just added here called Bounty, and I'm 99% sure that it's been in previous COD games, but it's essentially team deathmatch. And on each team, there is a high value target. And if you kill the enemy's high value target, you get more points. And if you're the high value target and you get kills, you get more points. So it's all about attacking and defending the enemy's HVT. And you can see them permanently on the hood. So it leads to some interesting firefights and everything. And I don't know if they've like turned SBMM off in this game mode or something. Maybe there's just not that many people playing it, but I had a great time in a couple of these lobbies and I got 22 kills without dying. And like, I don't have a nuke in Modern Warfare 2. I don't think I'm ever going to get one, but that's the closest I've got so far. And because I've played Warzone so much, I use my number 4 key on the keyboard for armor plates, and for some reason it's not separate in MW2, so it unbinds it for the second kill streak. I'm really sorry. You're gonna see in the gameplay when I get that second kill streak after 4 kills, I never use it, so that SAE is just always going to waste. But it is what it is. Hopefully you guys will enjoy the gameplay, and if you like this kind of video, leave a like, drop a comment below. Thank you. So today's story is about how a couple of people inspired me when I was a young kid to continue pursuing work and investigating how video games work and the game industry in general. And it all revolves around the Nintendo 64 game GoldenEye. I'm sure like many of you watching this video, I was lucky enough to have a Nintendo 64 console when I was a kid. I loved that thing as much as the PlayStation and the PC. I played it to bits. There were some absolutely cracking games on it, but the games that I played the most outside of maybe Super Mario 64, Zelda Ocarina of Time, and Diddy Kong Racing was definitely GoldenEye. I think I clocked the most hours on GoldenEye out of any of the games there. Bit of context for you, when I was 8 years old, my parents divorced and my mom and dad started living at separate houses, whatever, and I would go and see my dad on the weekends. Now, in 1997, I think that's when the N64 came out in the UK, and my mom and dad put some money together, even though, you know, they were still divorced or whatever, and they bought us a Nintendo 64 console. When I say us, I'm talking about me and my brother, but we weren't allowed to have it at home. We could only have it at my dad's house, and we would go and see my dad on Saturdays, sometimes maybe Sunday, and we would go around there, and when we were at the house instead of out somewhere, we'd play Nintendo 64. We'd get the neighbors over, we'd play GoldenEye, International Superstar Soccer, Lilac Wars, or Star Fox as it's called in the US. The game that we played the most was GoldenEye, whether that was split screen, golden gun mode, big head mode. We'd challenge ourselves, so one person would play as odd job and then we'd try and team up against them. It was an absolute blast, and despite the TV being a tiny CRT and split into 4 quadrants, we loved it to bits. And of course the single player too was absolutely fantastic, flying through the levels. GoldenEye had story to it, it had a serious tone, it had some epic memorable levels like the dam facility, the cradle at the end, and then of course you could burn some time by trying to unlock the cheats. So there was 3 difficulties on the game. It had agent, secret agent, and double agent, and to unlock cheats and stuff you had to complete certain levels in record times, and the times were quite strict. But if you like held the analog stick to the left and used the C buttons on the right and did like a weird strafe thing, you could go super quick. So you had to master strafe walking to get through the level as quick as possible, learn where the AI was, and it just became this thing where we would try and beat each other's time, unlock all the cheats, and we did them all. We did literally every single one. GoldenEye, great game, spent so much time on it when I was a kid. Console, I don't think I'd ever had a game like that before, and it paved the way for so many other people who saw it and went, damn, we want to make that kind of game too. Why am I telling you this then? Well, I was 11 years old when I was playing GoldenEye, and I was in my final year of primary school. In the UK, we have primary school and then we have secondary school. Primary school, I think, is for ages between 5 to 11 or 12, depending on when your birthday was. And I think Americans call that elementary school, before you go off to high school, basically. So I'm in the last year of primary school. It was getting towards the end of the school year, and one of my teachers decided to do like a round table thing where it was like, okay, let's talk about our hobbies outside of school. What do you enjoy doing? Bring something in tomorrow and talk about it. So the next day, I brought in the cartridge for GoldenEye on the Nintendo 64, and I explained, this is my hobby, this is what I like to do. I'm sure it was really awkward and everybody thought I was a weirdo, but that's fine. And the teacher, she said to me, see me after the class. Naturally, I thought, oh, I'm in trouble. What have I done? But she told me that her son was one of the people who made GoldenEye. And I was astounded by this, you know, absolutely flabbergasted. What are the chances that I bring that cartridge in the lesson with that teacher and she says to me her son was one of the people who made the game? And believe it or not, which makes this even more strange, there was only 11 people that made GoldenEye. The entire team was comprised of 11 people. And it took them around 2 years to make, and they put the game out as good as it was, which if you think about it, that's pretty incredible, really. But I'm digressing, sorry. And then the teacher went a step further, and she knew how into video games I was, and I'd said to her, in the future, I want to try and be involved in the video game industry, maybe make some video games of my own. And she said if I wanted to, she could arrange for a phone call or a meeting with her son, if he was up for it and if I was up for it. And I could ask him anything about making video games, whatever it is, any questions about GoldenEye, and just have a chat, I suppose. So I said, yes, I would love to do that. That would be great. Thank you so much. I think the teacher then called my mother and they okayed it, because you'd have to get parental consent for something like that. And it turned out that he couldn't meet in person, but he was willing to give me a phone call. So my mum gave the teacher the phone number of the house. We didn't have mobile phones back then, of course. Specific date and time. The guy called and I chatted to him. And while I don't remember everything about the conversation, I think he was on the phone to me for about 40 minutes in total. And I asked him all about GoldenEye, how they made the game, the challenges that they faced. And he gave me lots of tips about the games industry and what are the right things to study, what potential courses were there for me to take when I get older. And also I was a bit cheeky because I'd seen some previews in the Nintendo 64 magazines about Rare's next game, Perfect Dark, which they were making. So I tried to ask about that and what the game was like. Of course, he stuck to the NDA, didn't tell me anything. And then, I don't know why I remember this, but the next Nintendo console had been announced or something at that year's E3, but it was known as Project Dolphin, which eventually became the GameCube. And I'd read about this in all the Nintendo 64 magazines. So I asked him about that too. I was like, come on, you know, spill the beans about the new console. But again, he stuck to his NDA, didn't tell me anything about the new console, just that he was really excited for it and the projects they were working on. And of course, wrapping up Perfect Dark on the Nintendo 64. And that was it. And as an 11 or 12-year-old, whatever I was back then, I was just so blown away by this, that someone who made my favorite game took the time out of their day to call some random kid whose mother taught them that they'd never met and was kind enough and generous enough to answer my stupid kid questions and give me some genuine, solid info right from the horse's mouth about the video game industry. I'm not going to say who this was and what their name was because I don't want to put any attention on someone else. And they may not even remember about this or even care at all. That's fine. But I did look them up on Google and they are still working in the game industry, doing cool things on big AAA games. So it's good to see that they carried on in the industry and they've made a name for themselves. And speaking to him on the phone definitely gave me a lot of confidence as a kid to pursue video games, and I'm lucky enough that I've managed to make it a career. Yeah, I'm not making games, but I went on to study games design at uni, like animation, programming, modeling, map design, level design, scripting, texturing, that kind of stuff. And I've ended up making videos about video games that I love. So it helped in a big way. It's all formative, I suppose, in the end. So thank you to those two people, my teacher, the game dev. And I suppose the moral of the story is that being kind to people, giving them opportunities and sharing knowledge can go a very long way. And that's all. Thank you for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed this. Bit different to my usual content, but it sprung to mind for some reason. And I don't think I've ever talked about it before. So there it is. If you enjoyed the vid, drop a like below. If you're new here, consider subscribing. Thank you for watching and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.